Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson. I was on BrightShine right here in the city, members in the county, sheriff, state, Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday afternoon, November the 10th, 2024. Time 12:13 p.m. First, say thank you to my family for support for continue career support, continue keep myself employed in Memphis, Tri-State area, continue further my education, moral college line, continue to pursue my social research and be a administrative country. The present time take a break, going to school in the very future. I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna earn my social degree as well others degree. Now I'm gonna start my Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson. I was on my BrightShine. I live right here in the city of Memphis. It's in the county sheriff. It's in the state of Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday afternoon, November the 10th, 2024. The time is 12:24. It's 12:14 p.m. First, say thank you to my family, my support for me, continued career support. I'll continue to keep myself employed in the Memphis Tri-State area, continue to further my education. More college online, continue to pursue my social research, being my trade country. Right. Present time, I took a break and going to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to school and I'm gonna earn my social degree, well, other degree. Now, I'm just gonna take about 5 minutes because we had an election this week. Take us just a few minutes. Now we had an election here in the United States of America, and former President Donald Trump, he ran for re-election, and as you know, the results came back. He was able to win election, and Vice President Kamala Harris ran for the office of President of the United States of America, and didn't have enough votes in the Electoral College to be declared the winner. And me, if I could have voted, I would have voted myself for Vice President Kamala Harris, and for the right reason. When it comes down to making a choice on a candidate, it ain't no doubt in my mind that Vice President Kamala Harris was the right choice. And I've been hearing things on the news about some kind of blame and game. It's not necessarily about blame. It's really nobody to blame. As far as I'm concerned, Vice President Kamala Harris, she ran a heck of a race. And when you look at the outcome of the election, it's really nothing that former President Donald Trump can really brag about winning. Because Vice President Kamala Harris won a lot of states. First of all, she won the state that he's from. He's from the state of New York. Vice President Kamala Harris won the state of New York, as well as California and Oregon and Washington and so on and so forth. It's a lot of places that Kamala Harris actually won the Northeast. She won the election in the whole Northeast. New Jersey, Massachusetts, the capital D.C., with Connecticut, New Hampshire. She won those states. The state of Illinois, she won Illinois, won Kansas. There's a lot of places that Vice President Kamala Harris actually won the race. Won the state and run a heck of a race in what they call these so-called swing states. Thing I'm gonna say is this. I'm just gonna say this first of all. It's a lot of white people in the United States of America. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. In general, irregardless about Democratic Party, Republican Party, in general, it's a lot of white people in America. In the United States of America, what you call the United States of America, it's a lot of white people. That's the first thing. Irregardless of Democratic Party, Republican Party, it's a lot of white people. Because from what I've seen, that's what it is. It's all these white people. It's white people in Alaska. It's white people in Hawaii. And Hawaii is the Hawaiian people. Just like the territory of Guam and the Samoan Islands. There's a lot of white people in Samoa. There's a lot of white people in Guam. Hell, the United States Virgin Islands. Supposedly African Americans, but there's a lot of white people in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So when you come down to the population of the United States of America, first of all, I say it's a lot of white people. Because when you looked at the map, I'm like, man, North and South Dakota, there's a lot of white people. And there's a lot of white people in Wyoming, Montana. It's just a lot of white people, period. Everywhere. It's just a lot of white people. Irregardless of Democratic Party, Republican Party. It's just a lot of white people. So when you talk about the swing states, I was just like, it's a lot of white people. It's not the African American vote. It's not the Latino vote. It's not even these so-called Arab votes in the state of Michigan. It's a lot of white people. Democratic Party, Republican Party, irregardless. It's a lot of white people. Because when you start talking about all these different counties, for some apparent reason, you got all these African Americans congregated in certain areas, what they call inner cities. In all these different places, you looked at the state of Pennsylvania, for some apparent reason, there's certain places where it's just a lot of African Americans, whether it's Latinos, congregated in a certain area. And then when you leave that area, you go to all these other counties, it's white people. You look at the state of Tennessee, it's the same thing. It's here in the Shelby County, it's a lot of African Americans as well as whites that make up this whole, I think it's like right at 1 million. I think we done got to 1 million people here in the Shelby County. And I think the majority now might be African American, but then you got Latinos, but it's a lot of white people. But when you leave Shelby County, and then you got like Nashville, you got a sizable amount of African Americans in, I think that's Davidson County, in that county where Nashville's at. When you leave that area, it's a lot of white people. Then you go East Tennessee, you got Knoxville, Chattanooga. You might have a lot of African American in those two cities. But it's a lot of white people. See, when they showed the map, it's all these white people. It's all these white people in all these counties. Then you go to Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana. Kamala Harris did a hell of a job in Texas. She got over 1 million votes. But then you looked at the other candidate, got almost 2 million or something, however many people. He got the rest of those votes. It's a lot of white people. See, it didn't come down to Latinos or African Americans. I hear some stuff. No, it was the white people. It was the white people, because you got all these white people that live all over the United States of America, including Alaska and Hawaii. That's the reason why Kamala Harris didn't win. It's all these white people. And then that's the same thing. When you got all these African Americans and all these Latino, then you got it's like the white people are trying to get you to vote for their agenda. Because their agenda make up the Democratic Party and Republican Party. So sitting around talking about the economy, in this day and time, it really don't resonate. Because the only thing you're going to see is the economy is just a mixed economy anyway. What you going to, a communist? A socialist? See, it's people like Bernie Sanders, and Dr. Cornel West, people like, independents. But what you going to say about the economy in 2024? That you going to say you either a Democrat or a Republican? You talk about abortion. You're going to talk about Democrats and Republicans. Well, See, you try to make it sound like it's a real distinction, but it's all these white people. It's all these white people. And so, when it comes to politics, federal election, state election, local election, it's a lot of white people in every state, in U.S. territories, Guam and Samoa, and U.S. Virgin Islands. It's all these white people. And sitting around trying to get people to vote. But I still say Vice President Kamala Harris ran a heck of a race. I don't think there's no blame on like Joe Biden. It's not the fact that Joe Biden did this or that or or that. It's the fact it's just all these white people. Period. That's all it is. It's all these white people. It's all it is. And see, when you see him sitting up in the White House, this Donald Trump guy in the White House, the only thing I can say is just resist for the next 4 years. Just resist. Whatever his agenda is and the rest of these white people agenda, just resist. Because it's going to still come down to, it's all these white people. Then you talk about the Senate and the House of Representatives, it's going to still mean it's all these white people. I mean, when you see the election, and they kept showing the map. Do you see all these white people? You don't see all these white people? Don't you see all these white people? Say, look at the state of Wisconsin. They talking about swing states. You see the state of Pennsylvania, the state of Wisconsin, you see African Americans voting. A lot. A lot of people voted. But then in these concentrated areas where it's this congregation of black people, African Americans who live in a certain area where it's this big majority, but when you leave that area, you go to all these counties, it's white people. It's white people. So you talking about a Democratic Party, a Republican Party in all these different counties where there ain't number of white people live. It's just a lot of white people. Look at the state of Pennsylvania. They talking about the city of Philadelphia and the surrounding area. You got all these black/African Americans in Philadelphia and the surrounding area, close by. So there's a big area right there. Well, there's a lot of black/African Americans that voted. And the majority of them voted for Kamala Harris. But you go outside of that area, and then you got Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh, another area where you got black/African American, and of course you got Latino. All the majority of Latino voted Democratic. You can't throw that mess out there. A small number of Latinos and African Americans probably voted for Donald Trump. Okay, but the majority of African Americans and Latino, they voted for Vice President Kamala Harris. They voted for Vice President Harris. It was all these white people. Because look at the state of Georgia. Look what happened in the state of Georgia. See, it wasn't the African American vote. It came down to all these white people. They even showed it to you on some of these places where President Joe Biden had won. In some of these counties where there ain't number of white people. There ain't number of white people in some of them counties. They even showed it to you on television that some of them people didn't vote for Vice President Kamala Harris. They voted for Donald Trump. But them the white people. It ain't no African American nowhere. See, it's all these white people. It's all these white people. That was the whole election. It's all these white people. So like I said, when it comes down to this former President Donald Trump, now you're going to get sworn in as the president for the next 4 years. Just resist. Resist. Just resist. Because can you imagine the next 4 years with him in the White House? But but I just want to take my hat off to Vice President Kamala. I think she ran a heck of a race. I really do. I think that even if the short period of time campaigning, I still think to get over 200 some electoral votes, and she took some of those states, just took states and even got a lot of votes in a lot of places. I mean, it came down to a few votes in some of these swing states, but I mean, she ran a heck of a race. So he don't have nothing that former president done. He ain't got nothing to brag about. Nothing. It's just a lot of white people voted for him. That's all, And I mean, it ain't just me saying. I mean, the people showed it to you on the map. They showed these different places, all these different counties. Well, President Biden, when he ran, he won those places, but it was all white people. So again, I'm gonna move on, but I still want to take my hat off to Vice President Kamala Harris. She ran a heck of a race, and she don't have any reason to be, disappointed, or hey, you ran a heck of a race, did a heck of a job, and I just want to take my hat off. I want to just give her a round of applause because I mean, it's a heck of a race, man. All right, the names of God in the Old Testament: Elohim, Adonai, El Roy, Jehovah Tsidkenu, Jehovah Sabaoth, Jehovah Rapha, Abba, and the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh Roai, Jehovah Nissi, Jehovah Shalom, Jehovah Jireh, El Elyon, El Olam, El Shaddai, Jehovah Mikot Dishkim, Emmanuel, and the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, Shaddai, Jehovah Shammah, Jehovah Roy, Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Alpha and Omega, Jehovah Hashophet. Now, of course, we online, and names of God in the Old Testament, sources from across the web. Now, New Testament, names of God, and of course, coming from sources on the web. Elohim, Jehovah Rapha, El Roy, the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, Jehovah Roy, Jesus, Holy, Shaddai, Jehovah Tsidkenu, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Shalom, Alpha and Omega, Abba, Jehovah, Adonai, El Elyon, the Lord our banner, Jehovah Shammah, El Olam, mighty God. Now to click over here to BibleStudyTools.com. Reading from the New International Version, the Bible verse of the day. In the New Testament, the book of Titus, the 2nd chapter, the 11th verse, and it reads, "For the grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people." And that's the Bible verse of the day, reading from the New International Version of the Holy Bible, coming from the book of Titus in the New Testament, the 2nd chapter, the 11th verse. And also today's Bible reading, coming from the book of Titus, the 3rd chapter, the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17 and 18, in the book of Psalms, 127, chapter 127. And that's today's Bible reading. Now we have Bible study videos. We have featured verse topics. And you have popular Bible verses, for example. The book of John, 3rd chapter, verse 16. The book of Genesis, the 1st chapter, 1st verse. The book of Philippians, the 4th chapter, verse number 6. The book of Philippians, the 4th chapter, verse 13. The book of Romans, the 12th chapter, 2nd verse. The book of Romans, the 8th chapter, verse 28. The book of Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, verse number 6. The book of Jeremiah, the 29th chapter, verse number 11. The book of Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, verse number 5. The book of Matthew, chapter 28, verse 19. Those are popular Bible verses. Now, we have popular Bible commentaries. And we also have today's inspiration. Your daily verse, Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And it reads, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Again, that's today's inspiration, your daily verse. The book of Romans, the 8th chapter, verse 28. We're reading from BibleStudyTools.com. Now we have available versions of the Bible. Best known translations: the Holman Christian Standard Bible, the English Standard Version, the King James Version, the Message Bible, the New American Standard Bible, the New International Version, New King James Version, the New Living Translation, New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. You have a modern, of course, other translations. You have a modern Bible, the Bible in Basic English, the Common English Bible, the Complete Jewish Bible, Good News Translation, God's Word Translation, Hebrew Names Version, Jubilee Bible 2000, Lexham English Bible, New Century Version, New International Reader's Version, Orthodox Jewish Bible, Third Millennium Bible, World English Bible, Young's Literal Translation. You have older translations: the American Standard Version, the Darby Translation, Dewey Reams Catholic Bible, Revised Standard Version, Tyndale Bible, the Latin Vulgate, the Webster Bible, the Wycliffe Bible. You have New Testament only. You have Spanish Bible, Portuguese Bible, French, German, Italian, Dutch, and Chinese versions of the Holy Bible. Now let's click over here. And again, we was on BibleStudyTools.com. So let's click over here to BibleGateway.com. Reading from the New International Version of the Holy Bible. The verse of the day. The book of Job, the 37th chapter, verses 5 and 6. And it reads, "God's voice thunders in marvelous ways. He does great things beyond our understanding. He says to the snow, fall on the earth, and to the rain, shower, be a mighty downpour." And again, reading from the New International Version of the Holy Bible, the verse of the day from the book of Job, the 37th chapter, verses 5 and 6. Available versions of the Holy Bible. You have language and version from A to Z. For example, the Amharic Bible, New Amharic Standard Version, the Arabic Bible, the Awadi Bible. You have Bulgarian Bible, Subono Bible, Cherokee. There's a Cherokee New Testament, first in Native American. Surani Bible, Czechoslovakian Bible, Welsh, Danish, German Bible, a lot of English Bibles, a lot of Spanish Bibles. You have Persian, Finnish, French, Greek, Gujarati Bible, Hebrew Bible, Hindi Bible, Croatian Bible. You have a Haitian Creole Bible, Hungarian Bible. You have a Hawaii Pidgin Bible, Icelandic Bible, Italian Bible, Japanese Bible, Jacobic Oriental Bible, Kitchi Bible, Korean Bible, Latin Bible, Luganda Bible, Maori Bible, Macedonian Bible, what's that, Mam Central, and a Mam Total Santo Bible, Low German Bible, Nepali Bible, Dutch Bible, Norwegian Bible, Chichiva Bible, Oriya Bible, the West Central Oromo Bible, Punjabi Bible, Polish Bible, Papia Bible, Portuguese Bibles, Kichi, Occidental Bible, Romanian Bible, Russian Bible, Slavic Bible, Somali Bible, Albanian Bible, Serbian Bibles, Swedish Bibles, Swahili Bible, Tamil Bible, Thai Bible, Tagalog Bible, Twi Bible, Ukrainian Bible, Urdu Bible, Aspantico Bible, Vietnamese Bible, Yoruba Bible, and Chinese Bible. A lot of Bibles from A to Z. And all these various languages. So again, we're over here on BibleGateway.com. Now, I'm going to click over here to this Tetragrammaton. The quick reference, Wikipedia. Let me scroll down to the bottom. See also references, notes, citations, and sources, and external links. All right. The Tetragrammaton is the four-letter Hebrew theonym. What's a theonym? It's a proper name of a deity. Transliterated as capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H, or capital Y, capital H, capital V, capital H. The name of God in the Hebrew Bible. The four letters written and read from right to left in Hebrew are Y-O-D-H, H-E, W-A-W, and H-E. The name may be derived from a verb that means to be, to exist, to cause, to become, or to come to pass. While there is no consensus about the structure and etymology of the name, the form Yahweh is now accepted almost universally among biblical and Semitic linguistic scholars, though the vocalization, Jehovah, continues to have wide usage. The books of the Torah and the rest of the Hebrew Bible, except Esther, Ecclesiastes, and with a possible instance of, in verse 8:6, chapter 8, verse number 6, the Song of Songs contains this Hebrew name. Observant Jews and those who follow Talmudic Jewish tradition do not pronounce, nor do they read aloud proposed transcription forms such as Yahweh or Jehovah. Instead, they replace it with a different term, whether addressing or referring to the God of Israel. Common substitutions in Hebrew are Adonai, the literal translation, my lords, pluralis majestatis, taken as singular, or Elohim, literally gods, but treated as singular when meaning God in prayer, or Hashem, the name in everyday speech. Now we have four letters The letters probably written in red from right to left. In Biblical Hebrew, R, Y-O-D, H-E, W-A-W, and H-E. The etymology. The Hebrew Bible explains it by the formula. Transliterated, he translated, I am that I am. The name of God revealed to Moses in Exodus, chapter 3, verse 14. This would frame capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H as a derivation from the Hebrew triconsonantal root to be, become, come to pass, with a third person masculine Y prefix equivalent to English, he, in place of the first person, thereby affording translation as he who causes to exist, he who is, except although this would elicit the form capital Y, capital H, capital Y, capital H, not capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H. To rectify this, some scholars propose that the tetragrammaton derived instead from the triconsonantal root itself an archaic doublet of, with the final form eliciting similar translations as those derived from the same. As such, the consensus among modern scholars considers that capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H represents a verbal form, with the Y representing the third masculine verbal prefix of the verb HYH to be, as indicated in the Hebrew Bible. Now, when it comes to the vocalization, capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H, and Hebrew script. Like all letters in the Hebrew script, the letters in capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H originally indicated consonants. In unpointed biblical Hebrew, most vowels are not written, but some are indicated ambiguously as certain letters came to have a secondary function indicating vowels, similar to the Latin use of I and V to indicate either the consonants JW or the vowels IU. Hebrew letters used to indicate vowels are known as or matrix lectionis, mothers of reading. Therefore, it can be difficult to deduce how a word is pronounced from its spelling, and each of the four letters in the tetragrammaton can individually serve as matrix lectionis. Several centuries later, between the 5th through 10th century Common Era, the original consonantal text of the Hebrew Bible was provided with vowel marks by the Masoretes to assist reading. In place of the word to be read, the kiwi differed from that indicated by the consonant of the written text, the keter. They wrote the kiwi in the margin as a note showing what was to be read. In such a case, the vowel marks of the kiwi were written on the keter. For a few frequent words, the marginal note was omitted. These are called kiwi perpetuum. One of the frequent cases was the tetragrammaton, which according to later rabbinic Jewish practices should not be pronounced, but read as Adonai, literal translation, my lords. Plurality majestade is taken as singular. Or if the previous or next word already was Adonai, as Elohim, God. Writing the vowel diacritics of these two words on the consonants, capital Y, capital H, capital V, capital A, produces, and respectively ghost words that will spell Jehovah and Jehovah, respectively. The oldest complete or nearly complete manuscripts of the Masoretic text, which Iberian vocalists such as the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad Codex, both the 10th or 11th century, mostly write Yahweh with no point on the first H. It could be because the old diacritic point plays no useful role in distinguishing between Adonai and Elohim, and so it's redundant. Or it could point to the kiwi being, which is Aramaic for the name. Yahweh. The scholarly consensus is that the original pronunciation of the tetragrammaton was Yahweh. R. Reno agrees that when in the late first millennium, Jewish scholars inserted indications of vowels into the Hebrew Bible. They signaled that what was pronounced was Adonai, Lord. Non-Jews later combined the vowels of Adonai with the consonants of the tetragrammaton and invented the name Jehovah. Paul June and Takamitsu Murake state the Kiri is the Lord, whilst the Keter is probably According to ancient witnesses, and they add note 1 in our translation, we have used Yahweh, a form widely accepted by scholars instead of the traditional Jehovah. In 1869, Smith's Bible Dictionary, a collaborative work of noted scholars of the time, declared whatever therefore be the true pronunciation of the word, there can be little doubt that it is not Jehovah. Mark P. Arnold remarks that certain conclusions drawn from the pronunciation of as Yahweh would be valid even if the scholarly consensus were not correct. Thomas Romer holds that the original pronunciation of capital Y, capital H, W, H was Yeho or Yehu. Max Riesel, in the mysterious name of, said that the vocalization of the tetragram must originally have been Yahuwah or Yahuwah. The element Yahweh is found in Amorite personal names, commonly denoted as the Semitic equivalent of the Akkadian. The latter refers to one existing which, in the context of deities, can also refer to one's eternal existence, which align with Bible verses such as Exodus chapter 3, verse 15, and views that can mean I am the existing one. It also explains the ease of Israelites applying the Odom or everlasting epithet from El to Yahweh. But J. Philip Hyde believes it is more likely that Yahweh refers to a God creating and sustaining the life of a newborn child rather than the universe. This conception of God was more popular among ancient Near Easterners, but eventually the Israelites removed the association of Yahweh to any human ancestor and combined it with other elements. Yahweh. Halil bin Sasson states that there is insufficient evidence for Amorites using Yahweh to refer to a god, but he argues that it mirrors other theophoric names and that Yahweh, or more accurately, Yahweh, derives from the root HYH in Pa'el, which means he will be. Now, the adoption at the time of the Protestant Reformation of Jehovah in place of the traditional Lord in some new translation, vernacular or Latin of the biblical tetragrammaton, stirred up dispute about its correctness. In 1711, Adrian Reeland published a book containing the text of 17th century writings, 5 attacking and 5 defending it. As critical of the use of Jehovah, it incorporated writings by Johannes von Dietrich, 1550, 1616, known as Drusius, Sixtinus Amama, 1593-1629, Louis Capel, 1585-1658, Johannes Bustorff, 1564-1629, and Jacob Alting, 1618-1679, defending Jehovah, were writings by Nicholas Fuller, 1557-1626, and Thomas Gallagher, 1574-1654, and 3 essays by Johann Leusden, 1624-1699. The opponents of Jehovah said that the tetragrammaton should be pronounced as Adonai, and in general do not speculate on what may have been the original pronunciation, although mention is made of the fact that some held that Javi was their pronunciation. Almost 2 centuries after the 17th century works reprinted by Breland, 19th century Wilhelm Gesenius reported in his Thesaurus Philologus on the main reason of those who argue either for or Yahweh as the original pronunciation of the tetragrammaton, as opposed to Jehovah. He explicitly cited the 17th century writers mentioned by Reeland as supporters of, as well as implicitly citing Johann David Michaelis, 1717-1791, and Johann Friedrich von Meyer, 1772-1849. The latter of whom Johann Heinrich Kurtz described as the last of those who had maintained with great pertinacity that was the correct and original point. Edward Robertson's translation of a work by Gesenius gives Gesenius' personal view as my own view coincides with that of those who regard this name as anciently pronounced Yahweh, like the Samaritans. Now you got non-biblical texts with the Tetragrammaton. For example, those hieroglyphics. Text with similar theonyms. Magical papyri. Vernacular evidence, Hebrew Bible, the Masoretic text, talking about the Tetragrammaton. All right, let me see. The Leningrad Codex, and now the Dead Sea Scrolls, and other Hebrew and Aramaic texts of Tetragrammaton, and some other names of God in Judaism, such as El or Elohim, were sometimes written in Paleo Hebrew script. Showing that they were treated specially. Most of God's names were pronounced until about the 2nd century BCE. Then, as a traditional non-pronunciation of the name developed, alternatives for the Tetragrammaton appeared, such as Adonai, Curious, and Theos. They got this Greek fragment of the Septuagint. It was found in Qumran. And it's the book of Leviticus, chapter 26, verses 2 through 16, discovered in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It has Leo, the Greek form of the Hebrew Trigrammaton, YHW. The historian John the Lydian, 6th century, wrote the Roman Varro uh, 116-27 BCE, defining him that is the Jewish God, said that he is called Leo in the Chaldean mysteries. Van Kooten mentions that Leo is one of the specifically Jewish designations for God. And the Aramaic papyri from the Jews at Elephantine showed that Leo is an original Jewish term. The preserved manuscripts from Qumran show the inconsistent practice of writing the Tetragrammaton, mainly in biblical quotation. In some manuscripts, it's written in Paleo Hebrew script, square scripts, or replaced with 4 dots or dashes, the Tetrapunta. The members of the Qumran community were aware of the existence of the Tetragrammaton, but this was not tantamount to granting consent for its existing use in speaking. This is evidenced not only by special treatment of the Tetragrammaton in the text, but by the recommendation recorded in the Rule of Association, who will remember the most glorious name which is above all. And then they got this table below, presents all the manuscripts in which the Tetragrammaton is written in Paleo Hebrew script, in square scripts, and all the manuscripts in which the copyists have used Tetrapunta. Copy used the Tetrapunta apparently to warn against pronouncing the name of God in the manuscript number 4Q248 is in the form of bars. Now, they also have the Septuagint, editions of the Septuagint, Old Testament, based on the complete or almost complete 4th century manuscripts. For example, Codex Vaticanus, Codex Sinaiticus, and Codex Alexandrinus, and consistently use Lord, where the Masoretic text has the Tetragrammaton in Hebrew. This corresponds with the Jewish practice of replacing the tetragrammaton with Adonai when reading the Hebrew word. However, 5 of the oldest manuscripts now extant in fragmentary form render the tetragrammaton into Greek in a different way. 2 of these are the 1st century BCE papyrus file 266 uses in a normal Hebrew alphabet in the midst of its Greek text, and 4Q120 uses the Greek transcription of the name. Leo. 3 later manuscripts use the name in Paleo-Hebrew script. The Greek Minor Prophet scroll from the Hall, Hebrew, and Papyrus Orygenus 3522 and Papyrus Orygenus 5101. Other extant ancient fragments of Septuagint or Old Greek manuscripts provide no evidence of the use of the tetragrammaton. In correspondence with the Hebrew text tetragrammaton, they include the oldest known example, Papyrus Writings, 458. Scholars differ on whether in the original Septuagint translation the tetragrammaton was represented by the tetragrammaton in either normal or Paleo-Hebrew form, or whether different translators use different forms in different books. Frank Shaw argues that the tetragrammaton continued to be articulated until the 2nd or 3rd century CE, and that the use of Leo was by no means limited to magical or mystical formulas, but was still normal in more elevated contexts such as that exemplified by Papyrus 4Q120. Shaw considers all theories that posit in the Septuagint a single original form of the divine name as merely based on a priori assumptions. Accordingly, he declared the matter of any especially single original form of the divine name is too complex, the evidence is too scattered and indefinite, and the various approaches offered for the issue are too simplistic to account for the actual scribal practices. He holds that the earliest stages of the translation were marked by diversity, with the choice of certain divine names depending on the context in which they appear. He treats of the related blank spaces in some Septuagint manuscripts and the setting of spaces around the divine name in 4Q120 and Papyrus File 266b, and repeats that there was no one original form, but different translators had different feelings, theological beliefs, motivations, and practices when it came to their handling of the name. His view has won the support of Anthony R. Meyer, Bob Beckin, and comment on Shaw's 2011 dissertation on the subject D.T. Brunia. Mogens Muller says that while no clearly Jewish manuscript of the Septuagint has been found with representing the tetragrammaton, other Jewish writings of the time show that Jews did use the term for God, and it was because Christians found it in the Septuagint that they were able to apply it to Christ. In fact, the Deuterocanonical books of the Septuagint, written originally in Greek, Wisdom, 2nd and 3rd Maccabees, do speak of God as, and thus show that the use of as a representation of must be pre-Christian in origin. Similarly, while consistent use of to represent the tetragrammaton has been called a distinguishing mark for any Christian manuscript, Eugene J. Pintuick says, no definitive conclusion has been reached thus far, and Sean MacDonald denounces as implausible the idea that did not appear in the Septuagint before the Christian era. Speaking of the Greek minor prophets scroll from Nahal Hebrew, which is a cave recension of the Septuagint, a revision of the old Greek text to to bring it closer to the Hebrew text of the Bible as it existed in the second, first century BCE, and thus not necessarily the original text. Christian D. Troyer remarks, the problem with a recension is that one does not know what is the original form and what the recension. Hence is the Paleo-Hebrew Tetragrammaton secondary and part of the recension or proof of the Old Greek text. This debate has not yet been solved. While some interpret the presence of the Tetragrammaton in Papyrus of about 266, the oldest Septuagint manuscript in which it appears as an indication of what was in the original text. Others see this manuscript as an archaizing and Hebraizing revision of the earlier translation of this papyrus. Detroit asks, is it a recension or not? In this regard, she said that Emmanuel Toff notes that in this manuscript, a second scribe inserted the 4-letter tetragrammaton, where the first scribe left spaces large enough for the 6-letter word, and that Pietersma and Hanhart say the papyrus already contains some pre-hexaphleric corrections towards a Hebrew text, which would have had the tetragrammaton. She also mentions Septuagint manuscripts that have, and one that has, where the Hebrew text has the tetragrammaton. She concludes, it suffices to say that in Old Hebrew and Greek witnesses, God has many names. Most of it, not all, were pronounced till about the 2nd century BCE. As slowly onwards, there developed a tradition of non-pronunciation. Alternatives for the tetragrammaton appeared. The reading Adonai was one of them. Finally, before Curious became a standard rendering Adonai, the name of God was rendered with Theos in the book of Exodus alone. Represents the tetragrammaton 41 times. Robert J. Wilkinson said that the Greek minor prophets scroll from Nahal Hebrew is also a cave recension and thus not strictly a Septuagint text. Origen, commentary on Psalms 2:2, said that in the most accurate manuscript the name was written in an older form of the Hebrew characters, the Paleo-Hebrew letters, not the square. In the more accurate exemplars, the divine name is written in Hebrew characters, not however in the current script, but in the most ancient, while Pietersma interprets this statement as referring to the Septuagint. Wilkinson says one might assume that Origen refers specifically to the version of Aquila of Sinop, which follows the Hebrew text very closely, but he may perhaps refer to the Greek version in general. Now, the manuscripts of the Septuagint, later Greek renderings, patristic writings, and so on and so forth. All right. So, like, it's good to read. The Tetragrammaton is very serious, especially with the Dead Sea Scroll. anti-gang, anti-Gnostic, anti-hazing. Also, adversus, heresies, translated meaning against heresies. Saint Irenaeus, the Bishop of Lyon, together with Saint Ignatius, the Bishop of Antioch, they wrote a 5-volume book refuting Gnosticism, proving that Gnosticism was a heresy. Also, Saint Athanasius, the Bishop of Alexandria, in the year 367 AD, in his 39th Festal letter, Easter letter, banned all non-Christian writing. Saint Athanasius, Bishop of Alexandria, together with all the other bishops in the Catholic Church, they went around and collected all that Gnostic theologian writing, and they destroyed it. Some of that Gnostic theologian writing didn't get destroyed. For example, the Bruce Codex, the Askew Codex, the Berlin Codex, the Nagamon Library didn't get destroyed. All those codexes, they being investigated and researched, being studied by scholars at colleges and universities all around the world. Also, Saint Epiphanius, the Bishop of Cyprus, wrote a 3-volume book titled Panarion in the Greek language. Panarion, Latin, translated meaning against heresy. The scholars at colleges and universities around the world say that Saint Epiphanius Samuel, Bishop of Cyprus, 3-volume book is also adversus heresies, against heresies. Heresy in Judaism. Jewish heresy. Refers to those beliefs which contradict the traditional doctrines of rabbinic Judaism, including theological beliefs and opinions about the practice of halakha, Jewish religious law. Jewish tradition contains a range of statements about heretics, including laws for how to deal with them in a communal context, and statements about the divine punishment they are expected to receive. The rabbinic definition of heresy. The Greek term for heresy originally denoted division, sect, religious, or philosophical party, is applied by Josephus to the 3 Jewish sects, Sadducees, Pharisees, and Essenes, in the sense of a schism to be deprecated. The word occurs in 1 Corinthians 11:19, Galatians 5:20, and particularly in 2 Peter, the 2nd chapter, 1st verse. Hence, heretic in the sense of factious. Titus, 2nd chapter, verse 10. The specific rabbinical term for heresies or religious division due to an unlawful spirit is manim, literally kinds of belief. The singular men for heretic or Gnostic is coined idiomatically like go and am ha'aretz. The law, you should not cut yourselves, is interpreted by the rabbis. You should not form divisions, but shall form one bond. After Amos, the 9th chapter, verse 6. Besides the term men for heretic, the Talmud uses the words hisonim, outsiders, epikoros, or kofar ba-Torah, or kofar ba-Ikar, he who denies the fundamentals of faith. Also, parish, me, dot, zibur, he who deviates from the customs of the community. Religious fundamentalists claim that all these groups are co-signed to Gehinnom for all eternity and have no possibility of a portion in the world to come. The Mishnah in Sanhedrin 10:1 says the following: have no share in the world to come. One who says there is no resurrection of the dead, derived from the Torah, and one who says the Torah did not originate from heaven, and an epikoros. Rabbi Akiva says also one who reads external literature. This is explained as books of heretics. The biblical verse, so that you do not follow your hearts and eyes, is explained as you shall not turn to heretic views, minute, which lead your heart away from God. The Birkat Hamanim is a curse on heretics. The belief that the curse was directed at Christians was sometimes cause for persecution of Jews. Modern scholarship has generally evaluated that the Birkat Hamanim probably did originally include Jewish Christians before Christianity became markedly a Gentile and, in the eyes of the rabbinic sages, idolatrous religion. Now, Hippolytus of Rome. Hippolytus of Rome was a bishop of Rome and one of the most important 2nd, 3rd century Christian theologians, whose provenance, identity, and corpus remain elusive to scholars and historians. Suggested communities include Rome, Palestine, Egypt, Anatolia, and other regions of the Middle East. The best historians of literature in the ancient church include Eusebius of Caesarea and Jerome. Openly confess they cannot name where Hippolytus, the biblical commentator and theologian, served in worship. They had read his works but did not possess evidence of his community. Photius, the first of Constantinople, describes him in his biblical as a disciple of Irenaeus, who was said to be a disciple of Polycarp. And from the context of this passage, it is supposed that he suggested that Hippolytus so styled himself. The assertion is a doubt. One older theory asserts he came into conflict with the popes of his time and seems to have headed a schismatic group as a rival to the Bishop of Rome, thus becoming an antipope. And put the curse on that. Antipope. Now, an antipope is a person who claims to be Bishop of Rome and leader of the Roman Catholic Church in opposition to the legitimately elected pope. Between the 3rd and mid-15th centuries, antipopes were supported by factions within the church itself and secular rulers. Thus becoming an antipope in this view. He opposed the Roman popes who softened the penitential system to accommodate the large number of new pagan converts. However, he was reconciled to the church before he died as a martyr. Now, the writings of Hippolytus of Rome, his writings, controversy surrounds the corpus of the writer Hippolytus. In the Victorian era, scholars claim his principal work to be the refutation of all heresies. Of his 10 books, Book 1 was the most important. It was long known and was printed with the title Philosophiminum. Among the works of Origen, books 2 and 3 are lost, and books 4 through 10 were found without the name of the author in the monastery of Mount Athos in 1842. Emmanuel Miller published them in 1851 under the title Philosophiminum, attributing them to Origen of Alexandria. Recent scholarship refers to treat the text as the work of an unknown author, perhaps of Roman origin. The refutation of all heresies. the refutation of all heresies. And see, it's important for these things to be understood. And verses already sees against heresies. Saint Irenaeus, the Bishop of Lyons, together with Saint Ignatius, the Bishop of Antioch. They did this in the first century. But even before the first century, the Jews, for example, Rabbi Akiva made the statement, made it clear. Did not want none of that Gnostic nonsense to be an influence on Judaism, as well as that Grecian philosophy. The Jews already told you, the rabbis have already told you that Gnosticism is a heresy. See, we just got to going over the heresy in Judaism. And then the definition, the rabbis already told you, the hamim. And that so-called Gnostic nonsense is a heresy. It's a heresy. They're talking about Hippolytus of Rome. And also, when you're talking about heresy in Judaism, see, when you say hamim, and then leave men by itself, see, that's what being a heretic in Judaism means. And so, the sorority and the fraternity, the sohos and the frat bitches, going around trying to talk to people about Gnosticism, you don't do nothing but get yourself in a lot of trouble. That's the only thing you don't do, get yourself in trouble. There ain't no such thing as no Gnosticism. No such thing. See, the sorority and fraternity, the sohos and frat bitches, see, they self-destructive and destructive. They're trying to destroy wildlife, nature, the environment, the North and South Pole. They're trying to destroy our climate. The cats and the dogs are not safe. They're trying to hurt the cats and the dogs, and then they're trying to, support anal sex. They're trying to support that stupid stuff. Yeah, they do. They try to support that ignorant stuff. Talking about the material world is evil. And then have you sitting around here talking about some divine spark. And you sitting around here waiting on the divine spark to be released. Man. You need to be going to the nearest Catholic church. And being faithful and believe and be faithful. You need to be finding you a Catholic church to join. You really do. You need to find you a Catholic church to join. Don't let the sohos and frat bitches make a complete fool out you. the Almighty, Conservative, Vice Lord, Four Corner Hustle, the Almighty, Black Prince Stone, the Almighty, Mickey, Cobra Stone, Cracker, the Almighty, Black Disciple, Pop, the Almighty Bluefin, Black Disciple, the Black Disciple, Lord, Stone Disciple, Gangster Disciple Killer, GDK, Glazed Donut Killer, GDK, 7-11, G Killer, Goofy. See, it's important. Lord Stone Disciple. See, that's the reason why it's so important. Is that when I know, Minister Rico's alive and not in prison, as well as, for example, Bena Lee, he's not in prison. He's alive. See, these things are important. When I do the things I do, that's one of the reasons why I do the things I do. Mr. Jimmy, he's alive. There are other men, as well as women, who were vice lords when Elvin Pepper Perry was alive. At that time, when they put everything down. The same thing. The Black Prince Stone, Jeff Ford, who ended up in federal prison. But Jeff Ford, see, Elvin Pepper Perry, real and true. See, when I do the things I do, when I talk about Rabbi Akiva, and what Rabbi Akiva, being one of the most respected rabbis, did not tolerate that Gnostic mess, did not want that Gnostic mess to be an influence on Judaism, as well as their Grecian philosophy, as well, and then include their intellectual stuff. And then Rabbi Akiva, when we talk about a heresy in Judaism, talking about Hamim, a faction, and all this stuff. See, these things are important. When you try to lie, that's one of the reasons why I do the things I do. Because when Jeff Ford was a child, when he was him putting Black Peace Stone together, establishing Black Prince Stone, and this Eugene Harrison guy, I think his family from Ohio somewhere. See, you stupid people over there on the East Coast. You think people, I don't know, but you stupid people thought you were going to get away with trying to use Gnosticism. See, Eugene Harrison with these Hopper boys. See, all that is, you're trying to use Gnosticism. Jeff Ford was real and true, man. See, that's the reason why I do the things I do, because now Waikita went to prison and now out of prison. I do the things I do for that very reason. Don Dirt, he also went to prison, as well as some others. But he's not in prison no more. Just like OG, Don Brick, he's not in prison no more. But see, just like OG and Cowboy, when they were young, just like I was watching OG Swan, He was talking about he was down in the basement. He was a young man, as well as those who were down in the basement. They were young. They were young men. People tried to mislead you. That's what they did. They tried to lie. That's what they did. They tried to lie to you. That's the reason why I do the things I do. When I think about Killer Red and Mr. Cliff, when Killer Red was a young man, they tried to lie. They tried to lie. That's what they did in Larry on. Looking out the window. Him and all them other little peons. Looking out the window. On the border of Disciple and Ranger territory. Across the street from the club, the Guys and Gals Club, across the street. Who outside his window? Some gangsters and some hustlers. Who will misled their damn self and misled him. That's the reason why I do the things I do. The Catholic Church, the Jews and the Catholic Church, they ain't never tolerated Gnosticism. Because there ain't no such thing. They made it up. Just like New Age. They made it up. Then they have anal sex. That's what they do. They make up some kind of lie. Then they have anal sex. That's what they do. That's the reason why I do the things I do. One of the reasons why. Not the only reason. One of the reasons why I do the things. Myself, my mom and daddy, my brothers. Because you tried to lie. Then talking about some bitches on the East Coast. Talking about some bitches on the East Coast. Well, I tell you this. We got time. We got time. We got time. We got all the time we need. See, them bitches on the East Coast, they thought they had all this time. They thought they had all this time to make a complete fool out yourself. Make a complete fool out yourself. And you can try to act crazy. You can try to act crazy if you want to. Now, them damn police cars riding around. Got time. Got time. Now, you can act crazy if you want to. You can do that. It ain't going to get you nowhere. I'm telling you, you're going to get your ass killed. You're going to get your ass killed. See, that's one of the reasons why I do the things I do. Just like I told you. You ain't know what the blank I was doing. You ain't don't know nothing. I'm telling you, man. It's just like when I did that video, man. I told you. You don't know what I'm doing or the reason why. Because I ain't say nothing to nobody. I just did. But I know what the purpose was. I know the reason why I did. Because I wasn't taking that damn shit. Talking no bitches on no East Coast. No, I ain't taking nothing. Nothing. See, when Minister Rico be sitting up there in Chicago, he'll see my video. He'll see it. Ben and Leah see it. Jimmy, as well as all the men. When Waikita see my video. When the time when I did it. See, by that time my dad had passed away. When Don Dirk see my video. See, I did that. But it's a reason why I did. That's the reason why. Because I wasn't going to let no bitch walk around on no East Coast. No, you ain't, no. Hell no. You weren't talking to me. You ain't talking to me. No. You a damn lie. You ain't talking to me. But like I said, hey, we got time. We got time. We got time. We got all the time we need to show you bitches. You ain't nobody, man. See, I know you thought you got away. Just like I told you. I was watching you the whole time. You don't even know. See, you don't even know what I was doing and what I'm still doing. I was watching you the whole time. I was sitting there watching you, and I know you thought you had got away. You thought you had got away. Now you can play crazy like you want. That's what I'm telling your goddamn ass. That's the reason why I keep saying it over and over. You can act crazy if you want to. You can act crazy if you want to. I ain't afraid and I ain't scared. Want to laugh at your bitch ass. You ain't see me. See up there in Chicago, they looking down here. See, it's very clear now. It ain't no ifs, ands, and buts about what my agenda is. See, I'm aiding and assisting. See, when Don Dirk look down here in Memphis, Tennessee, and he see them bitches walking around, he know Eric walking around. When Waikita look down here in Memphis, Tennessee, he know Eric walking around. You can act crazy if you want to. You can act crazy if you want to. See, with Minister Rico, when he looked down here in Memphis, Tennessee, he know Eric walking around. Eric walking around. You can play like you crazy if you want to. Them police cars riding around, I'm going to do something about that goddamn shit. But no, there ain't nothing I'm taking. No. Hell no. You got time? See, the Latin kings and queens over there on the East Coast. Goddamn it, I ain't going. Them Trinitarios over, goddamn it, I ain't taking nothing from them. The Latin kings and queens, they over there on the East Coast. The Trinitario, they on the East Coast. Goddamn it, you got time. You got time. That's one of the reasons why I do the things I do. See, like I said, like I told you, man, you thought you got away. And I already knew. Gnosticism. Okay, well, we're going to do something about that goddamn shit. We're going to do something about it. Got time? And you can play crazy one just like them bitches out there in Los Angeles, California. Talking about some blood gang, crip gang. You can act crazy if you want to. You can act like you crazy. Talking about some goddamn nonsense. Well, you can act crazy if you want to. Got time? Got time? Got all the time we need. I tell you, they depending on the goddamn bitches on the East Coast. You got time? And you can make all them pussy ass videos all you want. Talking about the difference between a Crip, and talking about some Hoover Crips and some neighborhood. You can make a video and try to be cocky. I know you depending on them bitches on the East Coast. And talking about the difference between a Pyru blood and a brim and all. Man, you can make all them goddamn pussy ass videos you want. And you can try to play crazy with narcissism. Okay. We got time. They depending on them bitches on the East Coast. We got time. Because like I told you, man, you can't stand on a lie. Evan Pepper Low Perry, see, that would be making me mad. That would be making me mad. When you know that it's a lie. Evan Pepper Low Perry was doing what was right. It's a lot of good that man was doing. It's a lot of good things that man was doing. And I be damn, man, no, you ain't finna badmouth Edwin Pepperlo Perry. Hell no. No. That same thing with Jeff Ford and Mickey Caldwell. Man, you ain't finna badmouth Jeff Ford. No. No, you a damn lie. There's a lot of good that Mickey Caldwell did. There's a lot of good that man did. Because Edwin Pepperlo Perry wasn't misleading. And Edwin Pepperlo Perry did not mislead the Lords. And Jeff Ford, he wasn't misleading the Black Peace Stone. And same thing, King David Bosdale. King David Bosdale is at the very beginning, Laverne and all the original black disciples at the very beginning. No, they wasn't, no. They were trying to have a breakfast club and all. No, man, you ain't finna badmouth King David Bosdale. No. They ain't going. No, hell no. You want to act crazy, goddamn it, you can act crazy if you want it. You can try that punk ass shit if you want it. Lord Stone disciple is real. Lord Stone disciple is real. It's true. Evan Pepperlo Perry is real and true. He wasn't trying to mislead the Lords. Jeff Fort, real and true. Jeff Fort didn't mislead the Black Prince Stones and the Mickey Cobras, Mickey Caldwell. Jeff Fort didn't mislead Mickey Caldwell, and Evan Pepperlo Perry didn't either. Jeff Fort was real and true. King David Barsdale, he real and true. King David Barsdale did not mislead the black disciples. This peon Larry who, that's who misled. Should have never got away. And then talking about this black gangster new breed. Should have never got away. But I'm tell you this. From this day forward, no. Hell no. No. Talking about some narcissism? No. Absolutely not. Zero tolerance. Zero tolerance. And you can act crazy if you want. The funeral home gonna get a lot of business. The funeral home gonna get a lot of business, goddammit. You can act crazy if you want. The funeral home will get a lot of business. Gangster disciples and black gangster new breed. You can act crazy if you want. The funeral home will get a lot of business. And you can call Trump and try to get a tax cut because you made you a lot of money and you'll need a tax cut. All right. Goddamn. And that so-called blood gang, Crip gang out there in Los Angeles. Yeah, the funeral home gonna get a lot of business. Goddamn. Jewish principles of faith. Judaism does not centralize authority in any single individual or group. The formulation of principles of faith that are universally recognized by all branches of Judaism. Stop right there. Click over here for a minute. Jewish religious movements. Jewish religious movements, sometimes called denominations, include diverse groups within Judaism, which have developed among Jews from ancient times. Today, in the West, the most prominent divisions are between traditionalist Orthodox movements, including Haredi, ultra-traditionalist, and modern Orthodox branches, and modernist movements such as Reform Judaism, originating in late 18th century Europe, conservative Masorti, originating in 19th century Europe, and other smaller ones, including the Reconstructionists, and renewal movements, which emerged later in the 20th century in the United States. In Israel, variation is moderately similar, different from the West and having roots in the old Yishuv. And pre to early state Yemenite infusion. among other influences. For statistical and practical purposes, the distinctions there are based upon a person's attitude to religion. Most Jewish Israelis classify themselves as secular, Haloni, traditional, Mesortim, religious, daytime, or ultra-religious, Haredi. The Western and Israeli movements differ in their views on various issues, as do those of other Jewish communities. These issues include the level of observance, the methodology for interpreting and understanding Jewish law, biblical authorship, textual criticism, and the nature or role of the Messiah or Messianic age. Across these movements, there are marked differences in liturgy, especially in the language in which services are conducted, with the more traditional movements emphasizing Hebrew. The sharpest theological division occurs between traditional Orthodox and the greater number of non-Orthodox Jews adhering to other movements, or to none, such that the non-Orthodox are sometimes referred to collectively as the liberal or progressive streams. Now, other divisions of Judaism in the world reflect being more ethnically and geographically rooted. Beta Israel, Ethiopian Jews, and the Beni Israel among the ancient Jewish communities of India. Normatively, Judaism excludes from its composition certain groups that may name or consider themselves ethnic Jews but hold key beliefs in sharp contradiction. For example, modern or ancient Messianic Jews. All right, let me click back over. So again, it says the formulation of principles of faith that are universally recognized by all branches of Judaism remains undefined. There is no central authority in Judaism as existing today, although the Sanhedrin, the supreme Jewish religious court, would fulfill this role if it were reestablished. Instead, Judaism's principles of faith remain debated by the rabbis based on their understanding of the sacred writings, laws, and traditions, which collectively shape its theological and ethical framework. The most accepted version in extent is the opinion of Maimonides. Maimonides' collection of fundamentals is found in his commentary to the Mishnah. He stresses the importance of believing that there is one single, omniscient, transcendent, non-compound God who created the universe and continues to monitor all creation to allow for eventual reward or punishment. Part of the list is the idea that God established a covenant with the Jewish people at Mount Sinai and revealed his laws and 613 commandments to them in the form of the written and oral Torah. In rabbinic Judaism, the Torah consists of both the written Torah, Pentateuch, and the traditional oral law, much of it later codified in sacred writings. See the Mishnah or Talmud. Traditionally, the practice of Judaism has been devoted to the study of Torah in observance of its laws and commandments. In normative Judaism, the Torah and hence Jewish law itself is unchanging. But interpretation of the law is more open. It is considered a mitzvah, commandment to study and understand the law. The proper counterpart for the general English term faith, as occurring in the expression principle of faith, would be the concept of emunah. In Judaism, the word amen comes from this word and means I trust, believe. While it is generally translated as faith or trust in God, the concept of emunah can more accurately be described as an innate conviction, a perception of truth that transcends reason. Emunah can be enhanced through wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and learning the sacred Jewish writing. But emunah is not simply based on reason, nor can it be understood as the opposite of or standing in contrast to reason. The conception of God. Monotheism. Judaism is based on a strict monotheism and a belief in one single indivisible non-compound God, the Shema Yisrael, one of the most important Jewish prayers encapsulate the monotheistic nature of Judaism. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Judaism emphatically rejects any concept of plurality with respect to God, explicitly rejecting polytheism, dualism, and Trinitarianism, which are incompatible with monotheism as Judaism understands it. The unity of God is stated many times in Jewish tradition. It is the second of Maimonides' 13 principles of faith. Maimonides wrote that this God is one, not two or more than two, but one, whose unity is different from all other unities that there are. He is not one as a genus, which contains many species is one, nor is he one as a body containing parts and dimensions is one, but his is a unity, than which there is no other anywhere. Yad, Yasod, Ha, Torah, 1:7. In Jewish tradition, dualistic and Trinitarian concepts of God are generally referred to as shatu, partnership, meaning an incorrect but not an idolatrous view. God is the creator of the universe. Most Jews believe that God is creator of the universe. Different sets of Jews view this in different ways. For example, some ultra-Orthodox Jew groups reject the concept of evolution and believe the earth to be only a few thousand years old. Other groups of Orthodox and non-Orthodox Jews do not believe in a literal interpretation of the Genesis creation narrative. And according to that view, Judaism is not in contradiction to the scientific model that state that the age of the universe is around 13.77 billion years old. Norbert M. Samuelson writes, the question of dating the universe has never been a problem of Jewish philosophy, ultimately because their philosophy has never taken the literal meaning of the Bible to be its revealed true meaning. All right, let's scroll to nature of God. The Jews view that God is eternal, with neither beginning nor end, a principle stating a number of biblical passages. The rabbis taught a quite literal, down-to-earth view of the eternalness of God, that God is eternal, but it is not given to man to explore the full meaning of this idea. And so, one cannot therefore expect to find in the rabbinic literature anything like a detailed examination of what is meant by divine eternity. A famous Mishnah statement on attempts to pierce the veil is this: whoever reflects on four things, it were better for him that he had not come into the world. What is above, what is beneath, what is before, and what is after. The traditional Jewish view that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. Various Jewish thinkers, however, have proposed a finite God, sometimes in response to the problem of evil and ideas about free will. Louis Jacobs writes that modern Jewish thinkers, such as Levi Olin, echoing some classical Jewish writers such as the 14th century Talmud, Gersonides have thought of God as limited by his own nature, so that while he is infinite in some respect, he is finite in others. Referencing the idea present in classical sources that there is a primal, formless material coexisting with God from all eternity, upon which God has to work, and that God only knows the future in a general sense, but not how individual men will exercise their choice. On the topic of omniscience and free will, Jacob writes that in the medieval period, three views were put forth. Maimonides, who wrote that God had foreknowledge and man is free. Gersonides, who wrote that man is free and consequently God does not have complete knowledge. And Hesda Krekus, who wrote in or Adonai that God has complete foreknowledge and consequently man is not really free. Soul devotion to the Creator. Within Judaism, the essence of worship is deeply rooted in the belief of monotheism, emphasizing the exclusive devotion to the Creator. This principle dictates that worship and reverence should be directed solely towards God, as articulated by Maimonides' fifth principle of faith. According to this belief, No entity aside from the Creator is deemed worthy of worship. The Revelation. The Hebrew Bible, or Tanakh, is the Jewish scriptural canon and central source of Jewish law. The word is an acronym formed from the initial Hebrew letters of the three traditional subdivisions of the Tanakh. The Torah, teaching also known as the 5 books of Moses or Pentateuch, the Nevi'im, prophets, and the Ketuvim, writings. The Tanakh contains 24 books in all. Its authoritative version is the Masoretic text. Traditionally, the text of the Tanakh was said to have been finalized at the Council of Jamnia in 70 CE. Although this is uncertain, in Judaism, the term Torah referred not only to the 5 books of Moses, but also to all of the Jewish scripts, the whole of Tanakh, and the ethical and moral instructions of the rabbi, the oral Torah. In addition to the Tanakh, there are 2 further textual traditions in Judaism: Mishnah, tractates expounding on Jewish law, and the Talmud, commentary of Mishnah and Torah. These are both codifications and redactions of the Jewish oral tradition and major works in rabbinic Judaism. The Talmud consists of the Babylonian Talmud, produced in Babylon around 600 CE, and the Jerusalem Talmud, produced in the land of Israel circa 400 CE. The Babylonian Talmud is the more extensive of the two and is considered the more important. The Talmud is a representation of the Torah, though through sustained analysis and argument, with unfolding dialogue and contention between rabbinic sages. The Talmud consists of the Mishnah, a legal code, and the Gemara, Aramaic for learning, and analysis and commentary to that code. Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz writes that if the Bible is the cornerstone of Judaism, then the Talmud is the central pillar. No other work has had a comparable influence on the theory and practice of Jewish life, shaping influence on the theory and practice of Jewish life and states. The Talmud is the repository of 1,000 years of Jewish wisdom and the oral law, which is as ancient and significant as the written law. The Torah finds expression therein. It is a conglomerate of law, legend, and philosophy, a blend of unique logic and shrewd pragmatism of history and science, anecdotes and humor. Although its main objective is to interpret and comment on a book of law, it is simultaneously a work of art that goes beyond legislation and its practical application. And although the Talmud is, to this day, the primary source of Jewish law, it cannot be cited as an authority for purposes of ruling. Though based on the principle of tradition and the transmission of authority from generation to generation, it is unparalleled in its eagerness to question and re-examine convention and accepted views and to root out underlying causes. The Talmudic method of discussion and demonstrating tries to approximate mathematical precision, but without having recourse to mathematical or logical symbols. The Talmud is the embodiment of the great concept of mitzvah, Talmud, Torah, the positive religious duty of studying Torah, of acquiring learning and wisdom, study which is in its own end and reward. Moses and the Torah. Orthodox and conservative Jews hold that the prophecy of Moses is held to be true. He is held to be the chief of all prophets, even of those who came before and after him. This belief was expressed by Maimonides, who wrote that Moses was superior to all prophets, whether they preceded him or rose after. Moses attained the highest possible human level. He perceived God to a degree surpassing every human that ever existed. God spoke to all other prophets through an intermediary. Moses alone did not need this. This is what the Torah means when God said, mouth to mouth, I will speak to him. The great Jewish philosopher Philo understands this type of prophecy to be an extraordinarily high level of philosophical understanding which had been reached by Moses and which enabled him to write the Torah through his own rational deduction of natural law. Maimonides describes a similar concept of prophecy. Since a voice that did not originate from a body cannot exist, the understanding of Moses was based on his lofty philosophical understanding. However, this does not imply that the text of the Torah should be understood literally, as according to charisma. Rabbinic tradition maintained that God conveyed not only the words of the Torah, but the meaning of the Torah. God gave rules as to how the law was to be understood and implemented, and these were passed down as an oral tradition. This oral law was passed down from generation to generation and ultimately written down almost 2,000 years later in the Mishnah and the two Talmuds. For Reformed Jews, the prophets of Moses were not the highest degree of prophet, rather was the first in a long chain of progressive revelations in which mankind gradually began to understand the will of God better and better. As such, they maintain that the laws of Moses are no longer binding, and it is today's generation that must assess what God wants of them. This principle is also rejected by most Reconstructionist Jews, but for a different reason. Most posit that God is not a being with a will, thus they maintain that no will can be revealed. The origin of the Torah. The Torah is composed of 5 books called in English Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They chronicle the history of the Hebrews, also contain the commandments that Jews are to follow. Rabbinic Judaism holds that the Torah extant today is the same one that was given to Moses by God on Mount Sinai. Maimonides explained, "We do not know exactly how the Torah was transmitted to Moses, but when it was transmitted, Moses merely wrote it down like a secretary takes dictation. Thus, every verse in the Torah is equally holy, and they all originate from God and are all part of God's Torah, which is perfect, holy, and true." All right, let me scroll. Prophecy. Jews believe that the Almighty Creator at times chooses to prophesy. Many such occurrences are described in the Nevi'im, the books of the prophet. However, since the destruction of the first temple, prophecy has ceased. The oral Torah. Orthodox Jews view the written and oral Torah as the same as Moses taught for all practical purposes. Conservative Jews tend to believe that much of the oral law is divinely inspired, while Reform and Reconstructed Jews tend to view all of the oral law as an entirely human creation. Tradition, the Reform movement held that Jews were obliged to obey the ethical but not the ritual commandments of Scripture. Although today many Reformed Jews have adopted many traditional ritual practice, karate Jews tradition consider the written Torah to be authoritative, viewing the oral law as only one possible interpretation of the written Torah. Most modern Orthodox Jews will agree that while certain laws within the oral law were given to Moses, most of the Talmudic law were derived organically by the rabbis of the Mishnah in Talmudic era. God's relationship with men. Judaism focuses more on how God defines men than one trying to define God. There is therefore a focus on what people are expected to be or do far more than on spelling out theological beliefs. People are born with both a tendency to do good and to do evil. Jewish tradition mostly emphasizes free will, and most Jewish thinkers reject determinism on the basis that free will and the exercise of free choice have been considered a precondition of moral life. Moral indeterminacy seems to be assumed both by the Bible, which bids man to choose between good and evil, and by the rabbis who hold the decision for following the good inclination rather than the evil rests with every individual. Maimonides asserted the compatibility of free will with foreknowledge of God. Only a handful of Jewish thinkers have expressed deterministic views. This group includes the medieval Jewish philosopher Hasidic Krekers. In the 19th century, Hasidic Rabbi Mordecai Yosef Leiner of Izbekel. All is necessary for God because he is perfect, but for mankind all is possible by virtue of choice. The two types of view are true when knowing about the prophet who is endeavored with God to be wise and to perform miracles for him. Judaism affirms that people are born with both a Yisur Hatov, an inclination or impulse to do good, and with a Yisur Hara, an inclination or impulse to do evil. These phrases reflect the concept that within each person there are opposing natures, continuing in conflict. They are referenced many times in the rabbinic tradition. The rabbis even recognize a positive value to the Yisur Hara. Without the Yisur Hara, there would be no civilization or other fruits of human labor. Midrash states, without the evil inclination, no one will father a child, build a house, or make a career. The implication is that Yisur Hatov and Yisur Hara are best understood not only as moral categories of good and evil, but as the inherent conflict within man between selfless and selfish orientations. Judaism recognizes two classes of sin: offenses against other people and offenses against God. Offenses against God may be understood as violation of a contract, the covenant between God and the children of Israel. Once a person has sinned, there are various means by which they may obtain atonement. See atonement in Judaism. Judaism rejects the belief in original sin. Both ancient and modern Judaism teaching that every person is responsible for his own actions. The existence of some innate sinfulness on each human being was discussed in both biblical Genesis 8:21 and Psalm 51:5. In post-biblical source. However, in the biblical verses, this is brought as an argument for divine mercy, as humans cannot be blamed for the nature they were created with. Some apocryphal and pseudepigraphic sources express pessimism about human nature. A grain of evil seed was sown in Adam's heart from the beginning. In the Talmud, Avodah Zarah has an unusual passage which Elder Keesler described as the serpent seduced Eve in paradise and impregnated her with spiritual, physical dirt, which was inherited through the generation. But the revelation at Sinai and the reception of the Torah cleansed Israel. Keesler states that although it is clear that belief in some form of original sin did exist in Judaism, it did not become mainstream teaching, nor dogmatic fixed, but remained at the margins of Judaism. Reward and punishment. The mainstream Jewish view is that God will reward those who observe his commandments and punish those who intentionally transgress them. Examples of rewards and punishment are described throughout the Bible and throughout classical rabbinic literature. The common understanding of this principle is accepted by most Orthodox and conservative and many Reformed Jews. It is generally rejected by the Reconstructionists. The Bible contains references to Sheol, literally gloomy, as a common destination of the dead, which may be compared with the Hades or underworld of ancient religion. In later tradition, this is interpreted either as hell or as a literary expression for death or the grave in general. Let me see. Israel, chosen for a purpose. God chose the Jewish people to be a unique covenant with God. The description of this covenant is the Torah itself. God further declared in the Torah through prophecy to Moses that his firstborn is the Israelites. However, closeness and being chosen does not imply exclusivity, as anyone can join and convert. Included in the idea of being chosen is that Jews were chosen for a specific mission, a duty to be a light unto the nations, and to have a covenant with God as described in the Torah. All right, let me see here. The Messiah. Judaism acknowledges an afterlife, but does not have a single or systemic way of thinking about the afterlife. Judaism places its overwhelming stress on Olam Hazi, this world, rather than Olam Haba, the world to come. And speculations about the world to come are peripheral to mainstream Judaism and Pirkei Avot, ethics of the fathers. It is said that 1 hour of penitence and good deeds in this world is better than all the life of the world to come. But 1 hour of spiritual repose in the world to come is better than all the life of this world, reflecting both in view of the significance on life on earth and the spiritual repose granted to the righteous in the next world. Jews reject the idea that Jesus of Nazareth was the Messiah and agree that the Messiah has not yet come. Throughout Jewish history, there have been a number of Jewish Messiah claimants considered false by Jews, including most notably Simon Bar Kokhba and Sabbatai Zevi, whose followers were known as Sabbateans. All right, let me see here. Okay. So that's Judaism. Jewish principle of faith. Now we over here on Wikipedia, and don't forget the quick reference. Because citations, footnotes, notes, references, and sources. Very important. Citations, footnotes, notes, references, and sources. Very important. Very important. Do not forget. Now I'm going to click over here to Encyclopedia Britannica. Dualism in cosmology. Dualism in religion. The doctrine that the world or reality consists of two basic, opposed and irreducible principles that account for all that exists. It has played an important role in the history of thought and of religion. Now the nature and significance. In religion, dualism means the belief in two supreme opposed powers of gods or sets of divine or demonic beings that cause the world to exist. It may conveniently be contrasted with monism, which sees the world as consisting of one principle, such as mind, spirit, or matter. With monotheism or with various pluralisms and polytheism, we see a multiplicity of principles or powers at work, as is indicated below. However, the situation is not always clear and simple. A matter of one or two or many, for there are monotheistic, monistic, and polytheistic religions with dualistic aspects. Various distinctions may be discerned in the types of dualism in general. In the first place, dualism may be either absolute or relative. In a radical or absolute dualism, the two principles are held to exist from eternity. For example, in the Iranian dualism, Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, both the bright and beneficent and the sinister and destructive principles are from eternity. In a mitigated or relative dualism, one of the two principles may be derived from or presuppose the other as a basis. For example, the Bogomils, a medieval heretical Christian group, held that the devil is a fallen angel who came from God and was the creator of the human body, into which he managed by trickery to have God infuse a soul. Here the devil is a subordinate being and not co-eternal with God, the absolute eternal being. This then is clearly qualified, not a radical dualism. Both radical and mitigated types of dualism are found among different groups of the late medieval Cathari, a Christian heretical movement closely related to the Bogomils. Another and perhaps more important distinction is that between dialectical and eschatological dualism. Dialectical dualism involves an eternal dialectic or tension of two opposed principles, such as in Western culture, the one and the many, or idea and matter, or space called by Plato the receptacle. And in Indian culture, Maya, the illusory world of sense experience and multiplicity. And Atman Brahman, the essential identity of self and ultimate reality. Dialectical dualism ordinarily implies a cyclical or eternally repetitive view of history. Eschatological dualism, a dualism concerned with the ultimate destiny of humanity and the world. How things will be in the last time, on the other hand, conceives of a final resolution of the present dualistic state of things, in which evil will be eliminated at the end of a linear history, constituted of a series of unrepeatable events instead of a cyclical, repetitive one. The ancient Iranian religions, Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism and Gnosticism, a religio-philosophical movement influential in the Hellenistic world, provide examples of eschatological dualism. A type of thought, such as Platonism, that insists on a profound harmony in the cosmos, is thus more radically dualistic because of its irreducibly dialectical character than Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, with their emphasis on the cosmic struggle between two antithetical principles, good and evil. Midway between these extremes is Gnostic dualism, which has an ontology or theory of being of an Orphic Platonic type. See below among ancient civilizations and people, but which also affirm the final disappearance and annihilation of evil with the eventual destruction of the material world, and thus comprise both dialectical and eschatological dualism. In philosophy, dualism is often identified with the doctrine of transcendence, that there is a separate realm or being above and beyond the world, as opposed to monism, which holds that the ultimate principle is inside the world, immanent. In the disciplines concerned with the study of religion, however, religious dualism refers not to the distinction or separation of God and the world, but to the doctrine of two basic principles, a doctrine that moreover may easily be compatible with a form of monism, Orphism, or the Advaita school of Vedanta, that makes the opposition between the one and the many absolute and sees in multiplicity merely a fragmentation or illusory obliteration of the one. Now they have historical varieties of religious dualism among ancient civilizations and peoples, like over in Egypt and Mesopotamia. Seth and Osiris. Then we got the Greece and the Hellenistic world. Alright, let's see here. Then you got Iran. And then you got among the South and East Asian religions, like in India and in China. Then you got among the religions of the West, like Judaism. Because like no real dualism is found in Judaism, except in the Gnostic and Theosophic forms of Jewish mysticism known as Kabbalah. The presence of a vigorous and universal monotheism implies not only faith in a single creative God, but also faith in a God who is the uncontested master of history. And neither Satan nor Belial detracts from this absolute monotheism. Within these limitations, however, a tendency toward dualistic thought can be seen in such late non-canonical texts as the first book of Enoch, 1st century BCE, in which certain angels are said to have fallen as a consequence of their wedding with the daughters of human beings. These angels, it is held, taught humans the malevolent arts of magic, seduction, and violence, together with such elements of culture as writing and the use of metals. Though there is no dualism in the proper sense, in the manual discipline, one of the Qumran texts of the Dead Sea Scroll, a certain polarity, nonetheless displayed in a passage that asserts of God that then when it comes to Christianity, in Christianity, dualistic concepts appeared principally in its Gnostic developments. All right. Now, the Gnostic dualist view survived in late antiquity and into the Middle Ages, both in the East among the Mandaeans, the Yazidi, and some extreme sects within the Shiite branch of Islam, and in the West among the Bogomils and Cathari, that's still present today in modern theosophy. So we, that's that Gnostic nonsense. Then you got among religions of modern indigenous peoples. And so, we're reading from the Encyclopedia Britannica. Let's click over here to Wikipedia, the quick reference. Don't forget citations, footnotes, notes, and then references and sources. Very important. Now we over here on Wikipedia, dualism and cosmology. Let me scroll down right quick. Now, dualism or dualistic cosmology is the moral or belief that two fundamental concepts exist, which often oppose each other. It is an umbrella term that covers a diversity of views from various religions, including both traditional religions and scriptural religions. Moral dualism is the belief of the great complement of or conflict between the benevolent and the malevolent. It simply implies that there are two moral opposites at work, independent of any interpretation of what might be moral and independent of how these may be represented. Moral opposites might, for example, exist in a worldview that has one God, more than one God, or more, or none. By contrast, duotheism, bitheism, or ditheism implies at least two gods, while bitheism implies harmony, ditheism implies rivalry and opposition, such as between good and evil, or light and dark, or some and one. For example, a ditheistic system could be one in which one God is a creator and the other a destroyer. In theology, dualism can also refer to the relationship between the deity and creation, or the deity and the universe. See theistic dualism. That form of dualism that believes shared in certain traditions of Christianity and Hinduism. Alternatively, in ontological dualism, the world is divided into two overarching categories within Chinese culture and philosophy. The opposition and combination of the universe, two basic principles are expressed as yin and yang in our traditional foundational doctrine of Taoism, Confucianism, and some Chinese Buddhist schools. Many myths and creation motives with dualistic karma have been described in ethnographic and anthropologic literature. The motives conceive the world as being created, organized, or influenced by two demiurges, cultural heroes, or other mythological beings who compete with each other or have a complementary function in creating, arranging, or influencing the world. There is a huge diversity of such cosmology. In some cases, such as among the Chukchi, the beings collaborate rather than compete, and they contribute to the creation in a co-equal way. In many other instances, the two beings are not of the same importance or power. Sometimes one of them is even characterized as gullible. Sometimes they can be contrasted as good versus evil. They may be often believed to be twins or at least brothers. Dualistic motives in mythologies can be observed in all inhabited continents. Zolotarjov concludes that they cannot be explained by diffusion or borrowing, but are rather a convergent order. They are related to a dualistic organization society, morties. In some cultures, the social organization may have ceased to exist, but mythology preserves the memory in more and more disguised ways. Moral dualism is the belief of the great complemental conflict between the benevolent and the malevolent, like ditheism and bitheism. Moral dualism does not imply the absence of monist or monotheistic principles. Moral dualism simply implies that there are two moral opposites at work, independent of any interpretation of what might be moral, and unlike ditheism and bitheism, independent of how these may be represented. For example, Mazdian Zoroastrianism is both dualistic and monotheistic, but not monist by definition, since in that philosophy God, the Creator, is purely good, and the antithesis, which is also uncreated, is an absolute one. Mandeanism is monotheistic and Gnostic, and in its cosmology, the world of light that is good is contrasted with the world of darkness or underworld. Zurvanism, Zurvanite Zoroastrianism, and Monarchianism are representative of dualistic and monist philosophy, since each has a supreme and transcendental first principle from which the two equal but opposite entities then emanate. This is also true for the suppressed Christian Gnostic religions such as Bogomils, Catharism, and so on. More complex forms of monist dualism also exist. For instance, in Hermetism, where now thought that is described to have created man, bringing forth both good and evil, dependent on the interpretation whether it receives prompting from the God or from the demon. Duality with pluralism is considered a logical fallacy. Moral dualism began as a theological belief. Dualism was first seen implicitly in Egyptian religion's beliefs by the contrast of the gods Set, disorder and death, and Osiris, order and life. The first explicit conception of dualism came from the ancient Persian religion of Zoroastrianism around the mid-5th century BC. Zoroastrianism is a monotheistic religion that believes that Ahura Mazda is the eternal creator of all good things. Any violation of Ahura Mazda's order arises from Druj, which is everything uncreated. From this comes a significant choice for humans to make. Either they fully participate in human life for Ahura Mazda, or they do not and give Druj power. Personal dualism is even more distinct in the beliefs of later religions. The religious dualism of Christianity between good and evil is not a perfect dualism, as God, good, will inevitably destroy Satan, evil. Early Christian dualism is largely based on Platonic dualism. There is also a personal dualism in Christianity with a soul-body distinction based on the idea of an immaterial Christian soul. Duotheism, bitheism, and ditheism. When used with regard to multiple gods, dualism may refer to duotheism, bitheism, or ditheism. Although ditheism and bitheism imply moral dualism, they are not equivalent. Ditheism and bitheism implies at least two gods, while moral dualism does not necessarily imply theism, at all, God at all. Both bitheism and ditheism imply belief in two equally powerful gods with complementary or autonomous property. However, while bitheism implies harmony, ditheism implies rivalry and opposition, such as between good and evil, bright and dark, or summer and winter. For example, a ditheistic system will be one in which one God is creative, the other is destructive, theodictic. In the original conception of Zoroastrianism, for example, Ahura Mazda was the spirit of ultimate good, while Ahriman Angrimania was the spirit of ultimate evil. In a bitheistic system, by contrast, where the two deities are not in conflict or opposition, one could be male and the other female. Duotheism. One well-known example of a bitheistic or duotheistic theology based on gender polarity is found in the neo-pagan religion of Wicca. In Wicca, dualism is representing the belief of a god and a goddess as a dual partnership in ruling the universe. This is centered on the worship of a divine couple, the moon goddess and the horn god, who are regarded as lovers. However, there is also a ditheistic theme within traditional Wicca, as the horn god has dual aspects of bright and dark, relating to day, night, summer, winter, expressed as the oak king and the holy king, who in Wiccan myth and ritual are said to engage in battle twice a year for the hand of the goddess, resulting in a change in season. Within Wicca, bright and dark do not correspond to notions of good and evil, but are aspects of the natural world, much like yin and yang in Taoism. Radical and mitigated dualism. Radical dualism or absolute dualism, which posits two co-equal divine forces. Manichaeism conceives of two previously coexisting realms of light and dark which become embroiled in conflict. Owing to the chaotic actions of the latter, subsequently certain elements of the light became entrapped within darkness. The purpose of material created is to enact the slow process of extraction of these individual elements, at the end of which the kingdom of light will prevail over darkness. All right, I'm going to move. Let me see. Okay, mitigated dualism is where one of the two principles is in some way inferior to the other. Such classical Gnostic movements as the Sethians conceived of the material world being created by a lesser divinity than the true God that was the object of their devotion. The spiritual world conceived of as being radically different from the material world, coextensive with the true God and the true home of certain enlightened members of humanity. Thus, these systems were expressive of a feeling of acute alienation within the world, and their resulting aim was to allow the soul to escape the constraints presented by the physical realm. However, bitheistic and ditheistic principles are not always so easily contrastable. For instance, in a system where one God is the representative of summer and drought, and the other winter and rain, fertility, the mythology of Persephone, Martianism, and early Christians said here that the Old and New Testament were the work of two opposing gods. Both were first principles, but of different religions. Theistic dualism. In theology, Dualism can refer to a relationship between God and creation or God and the universe. This form of dualism is a belief shared in certain traditions of Christianity and Hinduism. You got Zoroastrianism, Monarchianism. Now, in Christianity, the dualism between God and creation has existed as a central belief in multiple historical sets and traditions of Christianity, including Marcionism, Catharism, Paulicianism, and other forms of Gnostic Christianity. Christian dualism refers to the belief that God and creation are distinct but interrelated through an indivisible bond. However, Gnosticism is a diverse, syncretistic religious movement consisting of various belief systems, generally uniting the belief in a distinction between a supreme, transcendent God and a blind, evil demiurge responsible for creating the material universe, thereby trapping the divine spark within matter. Gnosticism is not limited to Christianity. It also incorporates beliefs from other Abrahamic traditions, such as early Jewish sects. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, let me scroll down. Okay, you got the Cathars and Hinduism. Ontological dualism. Alternatively, dualism can mean the tendency of humans to perceive and understand the world as being divided into two overarching categories. In this sense, it is dualistic when one perceives a tree as a thing separate from everything surrounding it. This form of ontological dualism exists in Taoism and Confucianism, and a foundational theory within traditional Chinese medicine, beliefs that divide the universe into the complementary opposition of yin and yang. In traditions such as classical Hinduism, Samkhya, Yoga, Vaisheshika, and the later Vedanta schools which accepted the theory of gunas, Chinese Pure Land, and Zen Buddhism or Islamic Sufism, a key to enlightenment is transcending this sort of dualistic thinking without merely substitute dualism with monism or pluralism. And so now you have other religions like the Samoan peoples and so on and so forth, Chukchi and Fugans and so on and so forth. Now let's click over here to this mind-body dualism. Mind-body dualism. In the philosophy of mind-body dualism denotes either the view that mental phenomena are non-physical, or that the mind and body are distinct and separable. Thus, it encompasses a set of views about the relationship between mind and matter, as well as between subject and object, and is contrasted with other positions such as physicalism and inactivism in the mind-body problem. Okay, let me scroll just a little bit here. Now, dualism is closely associated with the thought of Rene Descartes, 1641, who holds that the mind is a non-physical and therefore non-spatial substance. Descartes clearly identified the mind with consciousness and self-awareness and distinguished this from the physical brain as the seat of intelligence. Hence, he was the first documented Western philosopher to formulate the mind-body problem in the form in which it exists today. However, the theory of substance dualism has many advocates. In contemporary philosophers, Richard Swinburne, William Hasker, J.P. Moreland, E.J. Lowe, Charles Taylor Farrow, Sage Jabbar Mazavira, and John Foster. Dualism is contrasted with various kinds of monism. Substance dualism is contrasted with all forms of materialism, but property dualism may be considered a form of non-reductive physicalism. Now we have the types. Ontological dualism makes dual commitments about the nature of existence as it relates to mind and matter, and can be divided into three different types. Substance dualism asserts that mind and matter are fundamentally distinct kinds of foundations. Property dualism suggests that the ontological distinction lies in the difference between properties of mind and matter, as in emergentism. Predicate dualism claims the irreducibility of mental predicates to physical predicates. All right. Dualist views of mental causation. Now you have arguments for dualism. And you also have arguments against dualism. All right. And we're going to click over here to trialism right quick. Now, trialism in philosophy was introduced by John Cottingham as an alternative interpretation of the mind-body dualism of Descartes. Trialism keeps the two substances of mind and body, but introduces a third substance, sensation, belonging to the union of mind and body. This allows animals which do not think like humans to be regarded as having sensations and not as being mere automata. Okay, now the background for this. Cottingham introduced this term after noting that Descartes' account of sensation in imagination has placed his official dualism under considerable pressure. Partly as a result of this, we often see the emergence in Descartes' writings on human psychology of a grouping of not two but three notions, not a dualism but what may be called a trialism. According to Cottingham, Descartes added the third notion of sensation alongside thought and extension without proceeding to ratify it as a separate substance. Thinkers such as Daniel Garber and Tad Schmaltz supported this by citing a letter in the correspondence between the Carthage and Princess Elizabeth of Bohemia, which indicated that he changed his mind from a dualistic view. But information, see the sohos and the frat bitches, when they try to come around in and everybody with this nonsense, or trying to be a smart ass and going around trying to think you can get somebody to listen to some damn narcissism, gonna get your ass killed. Sent straight to the point. See, the public library, all this information, public library, see, all these different religions, there ain't number 4 religions on all colleges and universities. The theology and religious studies department is 4 religions: monotheism, polytheism, animism, and atheism. It's 4 religions. It's 4 religions. So there's nothing new under the sun. There ain't nothing new under the sun. Ain't talking about some narcissism, talking about them codexes. It ain't nothing new under the sun. See, it's gonna still come down to the Jews and the Catholics. I already tell you, and they still tell you, it's a heresy. It's a heresy. And then all them people did was just made that junk up. They just make up a bunch of lies. And then have anal sex. That's what they do. They have anal sex. And then they made up some kind of religion so they can say God, the material world. Some blind demiurge made the world, so whatever I'm doing, it's not really me doing it, but it's this blind demiurge that created the material world. So homosexuals and lesbians, trans, some man looking like a woman and some woman looking like, all this kind of stuff. All that, that's what they do. They just lie. They just lie. They just lie. That's all they doing, lying. And then they call themselves trying to be violent. They try to be violent. For example, the Gangster Disciple and the Black Gangster New Breed, they try to be violent, a bunch of homosexuals. Out there in Los Angeles, California, the so-called Blood Gang, Crip Gang, they try to be violent. It's a bunch of homosexuals. It's all, the material world, even, a bunch of homosexuals. They depended on some homosexuals on the East Coast. Depending on some homosexuals on the East Coast. That's what they doing. So then he tried to play act. He tried to act like he crazy. That what he and she do. They try to act like they crazy. Okay. Yeah, you can act crazy. Got time. You can act crazy. Yeah, the material world. You can act crazy. Got time. Got time. Lord Stone Disciple is real and true. Elvin Pepperlo Perry, real and true. See, that's a serious thing, man. You can't lie on Elvin Pepperlo Perry. See, that's the reason why it's so important. You can't lie on Elvin Pepperlo Perry. That's the same thing, Jeff Ford. You can't lie on Jeff Ford. You can't lie on Mickey Caldwell. That's what I'm saying. You can't lie. You cannot lie on King David Bosdale. That's what they tried to do. They tried to lie. Lord Stone Disciple is real and true. Conservative Bible Law Incorporated, Bootstrap Corp is coming back. It's going to be revitalized. It's going to be revitalized. The Black Princeton, the location is going to be, it's coming back. And the Black Disciple, the location come back. See, all this stuff about the folks and the my people. See, what you try to do, you try to lie. It mean the same thing. You try to lie. You try to lie. See, it's not the issue about people just grouping together. It's about how you try to take information and distort information, and you try to lie to men, women, and children. You try to lie. That's what the issue is. It's not about nobody being grouped up together. Hell, you could have talked about a social club. It ain't nothing wrong with a social club. But it's the lie that you told to the individual in the social club that made the social club wrong. Because the actions of the people who belong to the social club was wrong. That's what's wrong. It's just like you could take the Democratic Party and Republican Party. You can sit around talking about the ideology of the Democratic Party and Republican Party. They'll sit around and criticize each other about the ideology. The thing that draws it is that you try to lie. That would come is that you try to lie. See, when I do the things I do, it's not because I don't have nothing else to do. I always have something, you know. But you try to lie. Hell, you try to lie to me. When I read, one thing I learned a long time, when you read, it's always something that get your attention. When you read. Every time I do my reading, it always be something that gets my attention. Every time you read. It ain't nothing wrong with reading. You just have to comprehend what you read. It ain't nothing wrong with reading. Because I guarantee you this, I'm not going to be the one that other people going to be trying to kill. It's going to be the other way around. It's going to be me trying to kill them goddamn people on the East Coast. I tell you. You got time? Trying to walk your ass around, trying to use narcissism, and then trying to come up to Chicago and trying to go out to Los Angeles, California, then all these local communities. I don't know who you thought you was or who the hell you think you is. But I'm telling you this, it's going to be payback. I'm telling you. It's going to be payback now. I'm telling you. You ain't got away with nothing. You ain't got away with nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. Time. So I'm going to get ready to end today's video. And again, my name is Eric D. Johnson. Also known BrightShine right here. I live right here in the city of Memphis. It's in the county of Sheriff, in the state of Tennessee. And I thank my family, my support for your continued courage support. And I'm going to come back on my next video. And I'm going to continue to stand for Lord Stone and Disciple. Because Lord Stone Disciple is real and it's true. And I guarantee it's a difference between then and now. See, it's a lot of people that knew that the sorority and fraternity, the Soho and frat bitch tried to mislead them. And today, I guarantee, because of the things I do, I guarantee it's people walking around glad that when I leave my video, they know exactly where they go. They know damn well the library is over. You know, it's a library in every community. Just like in the city of Chicago. See, when I do the things I do, the information comes from the library. That's what the World Wide Web is. That's what artificial intelligence is. The library. Because the people who design and and brought all this into, you know, where they get their information from? The library. See, library is just information. It's just being passed on. It's just information. And it gets passed down, and people go back and refer to that information. People refer to that information, and then so on and so forth. And then that's what you have today, artificial intelligence. Because the math we use today, it ain't nothing different than the math we used yesterday. It's just people just been studying, and they expanded their knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Hell, 1 is 1 and 2 is 2. What changed? What changed? 0 is 0. And look, I ain't got time to be going into 0, man. You can call NASA. Don't even go to the library yourself or get in contact with the National Aeronautics, what they call the National Aeronautics Space. You can, then they'll tell you about 0. But that, you know, so it's not that I'm doing anything stupid or anything. It's just I'm making sure that Lower Stone Disciple is Lower Stone Disciple. And what people in the sorority and fraternity, the Soho and frat bitch try to do, no, you ain't getting away with it. No, you ain't getting away. And you're going to find out the hard way what it means not to get away. I'm telling you. You're going to find out the hard way what it means not to get away. Because trying to do something like trying to victimize innocent men, women, and children, no, you. Lord Stone Disciple is real and true. So I'm gonna go ahead and end today's video, and you take care of yourself. Wish each and one of you very best. And also you continue to pray. I thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Son of God, for blessings and guidance they provide me as well as all of us with, and continue to pray for peace, because there are wars that are being fought all over the world. There are wars being fought on the continent of Africa. There are wars being fought on the continent of Europe, Asia. There are wars being fought, you know, in Central and South America. You know, there people are fighting wars. So continue to pray that it be peace. And I'm going to go ahead and end today's video. Take care of yourself, which either one of you is very big.